Okay, I've got a news report here. I want you to watch this. I've got some things to say about this, so watch this and I'll be right back with you.
Wendell Cox, writer on transportation, who did a fascinating piece for us recently called California's War on Suburbia. Welcome to the show, Wendell.
A pleasure.
Good to see you. California kind of defines suburbia, and yet public officials out there have decided they kind of hate the suburbs. Seems to me something's got to give.
Well, I would think so in the long run, because it is really going to hurt and has already hurt people in California. House prices are far higher out there than they are in the rest of the country, fully because of their urban planning regulation. And now with the newer laws that have come into effect, largely to try to reduce the impact of climate change, they're strengthening them even more, which is going to raise prices more. Talking about densities of 30 houses to the acre. We're talking about apartments. We're talking about war on the detached house and making it illegal. And all of that combined will increase traffic congestion, worsen health in the area of busy streets, and of course take away discretionary income that largely negates the higher incomes that are earned in places like San Francisco and San Jose.
Yeah. The two laws you're talking about, they have kind of interesting titles. In 2006, California passed the Global Warming Solutions Act, and 2 years later, the Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act. And I take it what essentially they're trying to do, and most of us are familiar with San Francisco, Los Angeles, and how housing has spread out beyond those cities. But the officials out there are trying to draw a kind of moat or Maginot line out there at some point and force housing back towards Los Angeles and San Francisco, I take it.
Well, yeah. This has been tried around the world, and the fact is the routine effect of it is to raise housing prices and to increase poverty. The basic economic analysis that should have been predated these discussions and should have been involved in the political discussions that created these laws never happened. And it's important to understand that a major report by McKinsey and companies supported by the National Resources Defense Fund and the Environmental Defense Fund indicated that it was not necessary to do any of these things to achieve sufficient greenhouse gas emission reductions.
Well, there's the old saying, Wendell, the trains have left the station, and in California's case, I guess you'd have to say the cars have left the garages. But as you said, you're talking about moving people into apartment buildings and condominiums and fairly large such things. The kind of vision it brings to my mind is something out of Fritz Lang's Metropolis. I mean, ideally, they would be building apartment and condo skyscrapers into the clouds on the edge of San Francisco and Los Angeles, and people would just live and walk to work. This is kind of the dream that a lot of planners in California have had for some time as they were worried about the sprawl. But it's just difficult to see that happening in a state like California at this point in time.
It's important to understand also that the major metropolitan areas of California, the LA area and the Bay Area, are the most densely populated urban areas in the United States. They are more densely populated than the New York area. And the point is that this is a vision that cannot be achieved. There is no way to improve mobility with these higher densities. And one of the big problems, of course, is the increased traffic congestion will make health effects much worse on busy streets and that kind of thing.
So what direction do you think that California ought to be going in? I mean, we're all acutely familiar with the incredible traffic jams around Los Angeles. You can get into traffic jams at 3 o'clock, like 35 miles outside of San Francisco. You can't believe you're sitting in traffic out on Route 1. What steps ought they be taking to relieve that, if in fact that's a worthwhile goal?
Well, it is a worthwhile goal. It's the very purpose of metropolitan areas to begin with. They have an economic justification. The purpose of metropolitan areas is not to be pretty to satisfy urban planners or architects. And so what we need to do is recognize that the reason that traffic congestion is so great in places like the Bay Area and LA is because population densities are far too high. There aren't enough freeways, and I'm not suggesting building additional freeways in the urban form, but I am suggesting that we need lower densities. We need to allow the city to continue to expand and recognize that this nation, according to the recently released 2 weeks ago census data, only 3% of this nation is in urban development. So there is no reason to be doing this kind of thing. And when you think about the fact that we can't afford our public employee pensions, we don't know how we're going to pay our bills in this country, the last thing we should be doing is measures that reduce the discretionary incomes of households.
Well, I think you're right, Wendell. Any of us who fly into California or Los Angeles or San Francisco, you look out of the plane, you can see that as you approach, there's tremendous amounts of open space in California still.
No question about it. And largely it is not allowed to be developed, and it's just like we're concerned when OPEC meets out of fear that they'll reduce production and prices will go up. Well, you know what? When we reduce the amount of land that's available for development, prices go up, and that's why Californians today are paying twice as much for their housing as in the rest of the country relative to their incomes, and it's only going to get worse.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Wendell. As always, we'll keep an eye on California, forever the hothouse and experiment for the rest of the country. Thanks a lot.
Now, I don't know how many of you caught on to what's really going on here. The majority of people that are awake, that is, not the sheep. I mean, sheep are sheep, okay? The sheep don't know shit because they're sheep. But if you're awake to what's really going on in this world, you already know that global warming is nothing but a scam. That was proven even when the emails was hacked into. The scientists' emails that was hacked into a year, 2 years ago, okay? Global warming's a scam, a fraud. But this report has something very key in it that anybody that's got any half brain in their head, it's right here in your face. And most people probably won't even catch on to it. You're thinking, well, for global warming, blah, 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 you know, transportation, save on fuel, blah, 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 whatever excuse you want to give for doing away with family homes in the suburbs. No. See, if you paid attention to laws that's been passed, bills that's been wrote and put on the book even before Obama came into office, the powers to be, bills that's been passed that allows the government and FEMA to move entire cities, little towns, suburbs, to move people, to relocate them into one area. Now I want you to think about something. That's what this is about. This is about coming up with a scam and forcing people out of the suburbs into one big, well, as he said, metropolis. One big area. Get everybody pushed into one city. Do away with all the suburbs. Why? Well, the suburbs, like in California, spread out, what, 35, 40 miles? I mean, you know, the suburbs are gigantic, right? And if we declared martial law in this country, okay, and they wanted to lock down the city, when you have a city that's strung out for 40, 50 miles like that, just in the suburbs, that could make it really difficult for them, you know, for manpower to control people. But if we do away with the suburbs and we push everybody into one area, we can control them a lot better. That's for one. For two, let's think about something else. We're getting set to go into World War III. Whether you believe it or not, it's going to happen. And when it does, them things that a smiling skeptic calls a decoration on a shelf that's there to be polished, well, one will probably fall off the shelf, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But a few of them decorations are going to fall off the shelf. Now, can you imagine this? We get everybody pushed into one area, okay, like San Francisco, and we do away with all suburbs. We get them all cramped into one big area. And then one of them things falls off the shelf right down on San Francisco. Well, now you ain't got to worry about any survivors out in the suburbs, do you? Far enough away from the explosion to actually survive. It might be underground and even survive longer. No. What a way to create population reduction. We can kill a whole bunch at one time this way. And for the ones that we don't kill, well, we declare civil unrest, which they're working hard at. You know, the Trayvon Martin story, The Black Panthers calling war on whites. That's right. The sheep, they want to stay divided like your government created for you. You know, like the programming and social conditioning is done to you to keep you all divided. They've done a wonderful job on dividing you. So now that you're all divided and you're wanting to have this race war, this is exactly what the government wants. You got to understand the government involvement in the media behind the Trayvon Martin story. Okay? Very simple. Let's get the division to a boiling point. Let's get people fighting. Let's get more shootings going with the guns. Enough shit happens, especially during election year, man. We could declare civil unrest. It's already in the books. The laws have already been passed. Obama has the power. He declares civil unrest. They lock down certain areas. Hell, just think. If we get everybody cramped into the city. Now, of course, we know this ain't going to happen overnight. We know that there's going to be some people fighting it. But the point is simple. The bill, the laws have already been put on the books that allows FEMA and the government to move people. That's right, to completely move you, to take you out of your home and move you. Why is this so? Because we, the people, do nothing about it. We just allow them to pass whatever damn well laws they want. And then we say, well, they'll never use them. Do you think they designed a law and wrote something like that and put it on the books to never use it? You're fucking full of shit. Excuse my language, but you are. They're just waiting for the proper time to use it is all. And right now, California's setting you up. Global warming scam. Trying to do away with the suburbs now and a single-family dwelling. And get everybody pushed into one cramped little tight spot into one city. And do away with the miles and miles of suburbs. That's right. That way, we can lock down and control that city a lot easier. Because now we got everybody in all the suburbs trapped into one spot. Now we can really control you. That's right. We can dictate you. We can control you. And in World War III, we could drop a bomb just in that one spot and wipe out y'all. Kill y'all. Real quick like, wouldn't it? You know, but that's all right. The bombs need to fall anyhow. Because the majority of you people are so asleep, so naive to what's really going on, that it's absolutely pathetic. The majority of you people don't even give a fuck what's going on. And you will only give a fuck when it interferes with your personal life. And by the time it interferes with your personal life, you won't have to worry about your personal life because you won't have one. You won't be able to stop it. That's when you'll be whining and crying. And that's when people like me will be smiling. Because ignorance is blitz and ignorance kills. And the division is terrible. The bombs do need to fall. But just the same, I just wanted to point this out. This report has something in it that most people ain't even going to catch. They're trying to push you into one location. Every last one of you. Hell of a lot easier to lock down. To lock you down then now, isn't it? Be a whole lot easier to control you when you're not all scattered out. Anyhow, comments, opinions. Next video, you have a good one.